been a lot of fantastic stuff since we last chatted. And not just around the Stanley Cup playoffs, which have been great. Off-ice intrigue as well. Mike Sullivan. Available. Hey, Boston Bruins. He's got the accent. Hey, New York Rangers. I know you're interested. Anaheim, Philadelphia. Take your pick. Chicago. So before we get to all the really interesting stuff, and before we get to all the really, really good stuff, there have been some fantastic storylines. It's pretty much, maybe outside of Carolina and New Jersey, I don't want any of these series to end. And I really don't want Washington and Montreal to end. And maybe the NHL doesn't want it to end either. You know, Zach, they're kind of getting rich on this series. I'm not sure if you've noticed how much money has been forfeited by players and teams in this Montreal-Washington series. But one thing I do want to point out, it's it always happens, right? It's a constant, and it just gets to the point finally where you have to finally say something about it. And I understand why it happens, and I understand how players are subtly and sometimes overtly encouraged to do so, but can we stop the diving? It's not just like, oh, look at Tim Stützle, he's the new Bill Barber. It's not. It's every single team, every single night. You watch the games and you go like, oh, really? Really? You know, I was making the joke, was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, about gravity gets much more intense. All you have to do is put blue paint on ice, and all of a sudden players fall down automatically. It's marvelous. These big, strong men fight off checks all around the ice, except in that area where it's blue, and they go down so easily. But then the playoffs start, and the players go down really easily all over the ice. I don't want to belabor this point, but one of the things that I really do like about hockey is that generally players will fight through things like hooks and slashes and trips and picks. They'll fight through them. And the obvious example is soccer. Now, I got to catch myself here because soccer is the most popular sport in the world. Who am I to criticize what soccer is doing? But I think we always we look at soccer in one very specific way with disgust, and that is around all of the diving, to the point where it is very much comedic, and we hope and pray to ourselves, not this sport, please. Slowly but surely, it is creeping more and more into the game. And more in the playoffs, where it seems like, I might have gone too long on this. It seems like teams are quite content. I know, it's so bad. Teams are quite content just to play 50-50 puck 5-on-5 and then take their chances on the power play. Now, there's some good power plays in the postseason. Some lethal power plays in the postseason. Like when they're clicking, Montreal is a thing of beauty. Ditto Tampa. Ditto Toronto. Like there's some beautiful power plays out there, so you can understand the motivation. I just look at it and I go, ugh. Not that you get style points for a win. You don't want to win like that. Anyhow, so let me just park that, but something to maybe pay attention to if you haven't been paying attention to. I know the action has been so good, and Marek's going on about diving, but it's just been it's like every night, and it's every team. It's not just one. Yes, you're a fan of insert team here. It's your team too. Every single team does this. You're gonna see it tonight. There's only 2 games tonight, but you're gonna see a ton of dives. You're gonna see it anyway. Bracket that. I got that off my chest. I've been waiting for that one since last night, since Leon Draisaitl scored that goal against the Los Angeles Kings. So that series is now tied, like every other series in the Western Conference right now. Let's get to what's on the program today, because we do have a lot, and we have a couple of really special guests to get to. So here we go. Daily Outlines, and thanks to everyone who's dropping by on YouTube and are in the chat right now. Daily Outlines presented by FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. Those are our friends and those are our partners at FanDuel. And coming up on the program today, as I mentioned, we have a couple of very special guests. Carter Hutton will stop by. I guess, I don't know if crisis is too strong, but man, what's going on with Connor Hellebuyck? I know, wasn't this supposed to be the year where, he's going to win the Vezina again, and everything's going to be fine with Connor Hellebuyck, and there's not going to be any playoff oh boy. Here we go again. Chased twice by the St. Louis Blues. Also, Josh Yohe from The Athletic will talk to us about the Pittsburgh Penguins, their hunt for a new coach as they have dismissed their now old coach, Mike Sullivan. Pittsburgh is, of course, Josh's beats. Goalie drama is not exclusive to the Winnipeg Jets. There was goalie drama. You can make the argument in a couple of different series here. We'll get to all of that. Some by way of injury, some by way of poor performance. We should probably highlight the good performances as well, too, whether it's Jordan Binnington or whether it is Mackenzie Blackwood, who's probably been the best goaltender we've seen so far in these playoffs. I mentioned Mike Sullivan. He is out with the Pittsburgh Penguins and bringing the boom. Let's park that one for a second. So as you write on the daily outline here, young Zach, bringing the boom, are you referring to specifically Matthew Tkachuk? Are you referring to Tom Wilson? Are you referring to Tom Wilson and Josh Anderson? To what are you referring, Zach?
All of it.
All of it. Eh?
All of the above. All of it. That's what I wanted to get into here today. Like, it's a big topic this weekend. This is the one thing, too, that I love about I love this about the playoff time. Is like you go all year and it's like people dislike other fan bases or whatever. I get to the playoffs and I just like live watching the games and online, and it's just like Habs fans. I mean, I'm saying that as an example. I'm not actually calling them this, but it's just like insert team here are the dumbest fans on the internet, and then it's just because it's like Tom Wilson hit somebody, and like Habs fans are like, get these people out of here, or the other way where someone says like every single time. I love it, but. It causes this drama, it causes intrigue, and then I flip on and Pat McAfee, and they're talking about the hits and the physicality and the excitement of these things, and it's like, don't look now, but guess what? Violence draws attention, so I wanted to make sure we put in Bring the Boom.
Well, and you know what, too, like, the league is very much trending towards that. Like, everything old is starting to become new again here now. Like, managers, for the longest time, would always say, give me foot speed, give me foot speed, give me foot speed. Everybody can skate now, right? There are varying degrees of fast players, but everybody can skate. Everyone's cool at the pace. The question now becomes, what different can you give me? And that difference is like, who can play physical? And I get it. It's really hard to play physical 82 times a year. Listen, your body cannot handle, like, you cannot play playoff hockey for 82 games. You just can't do that. Like, Tom Wilson can't behave like that. And man, that hit on Carrier, holy smokes. You wonder if that was a series right there. You can't play that 82 game times a year, but when you're just trying to win 16 games for a couple of months, you do, quote unquote, whatever it takes. And that's Tom Wilson. Once upon a time, like, honestly, like, I hate to be that guy, but that's the way hockey used to be. Now, it came along with a lot of garbage too. Like, a lot of, like, you did not get clean through the neutral zone. But like, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, this Tom Wilson hit on Carrier, first of all, it did happen all the time, but the reaction was, don't put your head down through the neutral zone. But when you play 82 games of, you can put your head down through the neutral zone because no one else is really going to behave like that during the regular season, you kind of get used to it, and all of a sudden, oh, I forgot Tom Wilson's in this league. You know how many Tom Wilsons there used to be in the NHL? Like, there used to be a ton of Tom Wilsons in the NHL. Now, there's a couple of things here. One, as we're all looking for, like, okay, so what's the turning point in every series? So in Edmonton, LA, I thought the turning point was going to be that botched goalie interference challenge by Jim Hiller. Everything is hinging on that. Oh, that's it. The momentum is switched, and it's going to be all advantage Oilers. Until the next game happened last night, and Los Angeles was just fine, and Los Angeles was owning the Edmonton Oilers, and you're saying to yourself, okay, well, that's going to be the one game the Oilers win here, and it's going to be LA in 5. And then my idea of it's not going to be the Hiller challenge where all of this changes for the Oilers if the Oilers win this series, and it's the best 2 out of 3 now, it's going to be Quentin Byfield not chipping the puck out.
Yeah.
And trying to skate it out of his own zone. So that's where I'm at now. But on the Montreal-Washington series, I really do wonder if at that moment, the whole series changed. because Friday night we had rock and roll. It was 1979, right? And that was punk rock between the Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals, punctuated by two guys brawling in the bench, which I haven't seen forever, Zach. Like, we've seen it before in the NHL, but not like that. Like, there was a very famous, in the 60s, punch up in the penalty box between Chicago and Toronto. This is before they had the penalty boxes separated, which led to the penalty boxes being separated. But you can probably count on one hand the amount of times that you've seen guys fighting in the benches. But there we were on Friday in Montreal, the cathedral of hockey, at the Bell Center, where everybody must go, where everybody must visit. And I don't know, like, the whole thing was just like beautifully violent and skilled and fun and rock and roll hockey. I love this series, and I do wonder if the turning point in this series is going to be that Tom Wilson hit on Carrier. Our buddy Troy Smith, on one of his appearances this year on the program, was making the case for Tom Wilson to be on Team Canada. And I think he put a video up this morning saying, and that's why I'm saying Tom Wilson should have been on Team Canada at the Four Nations. And considering how the Four Nations went, specifically that opening face-off, again, in Montreal, maybe he's got a good point. In the meantime, let's talk about goaltenders and what the heck is going on with Connor Hellebuyck. Here he is, former NHL netminder, now star on the Nation Network. The one and only Carter Hutton joins me now here on the show. This segment is a presentation of Budweiser. Bud's Bench. Budweiser is encouraging Buds to make time for playoffs, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your Buds. Phone a Bud, text a Bud, ping a Bud, call out their excuses for bailing on the playoffs. After all, the playoffs are the most wonderful time of the year. Make them count. When it's springtime, it's go time, Carter Hutton. No excuses. I know you're watching playoff hockey every single night, and I'm really curious because I texted you right away. I gotta get it early on Huts before someone gobbles them up for the show. Hellebuck's game goes south, and we say to ourselves, here we go again. And it's 3 games in a row. And in that last game, we saw him score on 3. The St. Louis scores on him 3 shots in a row, and he's getting the hook for the second game in a row. And we're wondering about Eric Comrie. What is it? I don't get it. Is the puck smaller? Did I miss something? Did they change the playoff rules? What is about every year Connor Hellebuyck in the postseason?
I know it's tough, Jeff, and it's hard to be critical on one of the best goalies in the world, but it is like time and time again, we're seeing in the playoffs, we're seeing him struggle. And I don't know if it's mental or if it's just the fact that now you're in the NHL playoff and the fluff is gone, right? Every team is playing good hockey. Every team is getting to the net. Every team is doing the things it takes to win. And that being said, just watching his game, he looks so safe and flat-footed and not really reading the play. And when I think back, I'm trying to really evolve my points here, right? And look back on history's past and guys, he just doesn't have that athleticism competitiveness, in my opinion, right? So at times he's so good to watch because he's so low maintenance in the work he puts in, and he lets the game come to him. But then you get to the playoffs where everything is such hard-fought battles with traffic, and you need that secondary save capability. When I look back on all the goalies that are winning Stanley Cups, that have won Stanley Cups, look at Jordan Binnington, the way he battles. Look back on Sergei Bobrovsky, Andrei Vasilevsky. And outside of that, probably a similar goalie to go the distance and win the Stanley Cup would be Darcy Kemper, who had a very, very tough playoff run, who was probably protected the fact that Colorado scored so many goals. So that being said, when I watch him, he just looks secondary, he's not reading the play. He's really locked in on his edges. The Robert Thomas goal for me is a great one where he walks down. Yes, it's a good scoring chance, but he's so locked in on the shot, right? And I know safety comes first. And something I'm seeing with Linus Ullmark right now, very similar, is he's just flat-footed. We look back to that game 3 where pucks are just getting around him, and it looks like everything he's struggling with. So that's kind of where I'm at with Hellebuyck. I am concerned. I think they should be concerned, but I just don't know how you go to Eric Comrie when it's not really a comparison on the 2 goalies.
Does he only get one more chance? Let's say the same thing happens again. Is it at that point where it's in case of emergency, break glass, and we see Eric Comrie? Oh, by the way, to the point about being locked in, just so I have an understanding and our viewers / listeners have an understanding, does that mean he just can't budge? Because you look at that Robert Thomas goal and he does not move, and Thomas just goes around him. Now, Thomas is one of the elite players in the NHL, but still, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So the term that we use a lot now is the modern term is playing with a little bit of recoil. And Bob Essenza was really good with this with Tuukka Rask, with Linus Ullmark, where as you're set, right, bigger guys that get locked in on their edges, having a little bit of backflow toward the goal line. So in that sense, if you have a little bit of movement, it's much easier to make lateral plays, where when we think about our edges, if we get locked in on our inside edges and now our weight is there, it's much harder to shift and transfer our weight. And we start to chase the game, right, where we can't get diagonal to our post to eliminate chances. And right now I'm seeing that with a few of these bigger goalies where, again, I circle back to this is playoff times and teams create and they make it harder. And there's a lot more double screens. And something I noticed in that Winnipeg game against St. Louis is they're working so hard to try to protect the front of the net from tips, from traffic, where you're almost creating more chaos for Connor Hellebuyck. Kind of similar to the example we saw of the overtime winner by Jake Sanderson, where I think if Carlo doesn't decide to go to try to chase in front of the net there, Stolarz probably makes that save because of the traffic. So it's a happy medium of letting your goalie see the first one. But that being said, if you get locked in on your edges, it just goes south for you.
So how do you, like, the screen thing to me is fascinating. If you're a goaltender, like, do you not want your defenseman to try to move the player out from being in front of you and taking away your eyes? Like, what do you do?
I think it is at times. I think goalies do a really good job of reading plays and reading tips and understanding where the structure comes from. Yeah. The best example I have was when I played in St. Louis the year before they won the Stanley Cup. We were so good on the back end. It was Jay Bouwmeester, Alex Pietrangelo, Joel Edmondson, Robert Bertuzzo, Carl Gunnarsson. We had a great group, and they went on to win the Stanley Cup the next year with Binnington. But the predictability in our game and structure of, if I was going to front a shot, I knew that if the shot was on, say, my right, it was on net. If it was on my left, it was wide of the net. And I think that is where it gets real important, is that gray area where you get caught in between battling. Because a tale as old as time, what NHL net front player gets moved out of the way? Nobody gets moved out of the way. It's either you're trying to tie up his stick, and if a guy gets space on you, once he gets to the front of the net, there's really no moving him. The fact of the matter is the work needs to be done beforehand. The boxing out from getting him to the front of the net is so important. And I feel like right now, when they are behind the eight ball, they're trying to chase guys in front, and it's making it more chaotic. Topped on top of the fact that I think Connor Hellebuyck is just so locked in. And I think something in my game I struggled with when I wasn't playing well, I was a lot more athletic than Connor in the sense, I was like more aggressive. I had to be my size, the way I played. But when I got too locked in, my lateral movement, I would be flat to the post. I would struggle chasing the game, where when I had a little bit of movement to my game, it helped. And I think Connor Hellebuyck right now is too locked in, along with that traffic and mix. And that being said, I also want to give Dave Alexander, the goalie coach of the St. Louis Blues, a lot of credit here. He faced him in the Four Nations Cup. I think he does a really good job of incorporating goalie school for players. And it was something that I found when I was in St. Louis, that they did a great job of getting him to communicate with players. You know, how do we get to this guy, and evolving their game as we go. And he's a genius of the sport. And I think that's been a big, series momentum changer here for St. Louis.
I want to ask you about a couple of things, fatigue, and I want to ask you about Jordan Binnington. But first, in our chat, Big Willie Style says, ask Carter Hutton, is it harder to make a save on a screenshot or a deflection?
So I think if it's a clean deflection, I don't think it's horrible by any means, because you've seen the pattern so many times, right? So a great example would be the goal on Stolarz. He's not able to connect the dots, right? So he knows where it's going. You see, he reads that puck. And I think in Jake Sanderson's favor, it's a knuckle puck, which makes it a little trickier. But a deflection, you know where it's going. There was a few saves in that St. Louis game that Jordan Binnington made on the power play where he doesn't even play the shot. He plays the deflection knowing that, like, if it comes off his stick, I'm squared to the net. So that's where now it becomes body control. So I think playing a deflection is a little bit easier at times than when you get a double traffic screen. A double traffic screen, I think, creates so much chaos. And we've seen how many point shots now, how many D-men have scored just sifters from the point. Because goalies lose puck. And you know what happens, Jeff, is when you don't see the puck and you're fighting it a little bit, like depth, like dropping back becomes your like safety net. So now all of a sudden I don't see the puck. I'm like panic mode. I drop and I sink. Where if I can see the puck and a tip coming, I can be aggressive and go get that puck and give myself a better chance on it.
Okay. So you mentioned Jordan Binnington. Do goaltenders think like this? It's me versus him. And could this be part of it? And you know where I'm going with this, like fumes of the Four Nations. Like I'm really firmly of the belief, and we've seen Jordan Binnington. Like I know he can be kind of erratic and looking for fights and all that, but like that guy competes. Like you can see, like this guy battles hard, and I'm sure there's a part of his brain that's saying it's me versus this guy that's going to win the Vezina Trophy. Is that a thing for goaltenders, and could it be a thing here that this is like mental between these two goalies? And the other question is, do you think Connor Hellebuyck plays too many games in the regular season?
I think so. I think there's a fact of just like so many games and kind of losing that like drive to be dominant. And again, I said this down the stretch, right? You start chasing records, right? He's so close to getting to Holtby. He's so close to getting to where he needs to go. But that being said, I think you need to have him ready to go and worry less about that. Now you start talking about the Four Nation Cups and the amount of games he played there. You start talking about, him chasing Holtby's record and where he is and the energy that he puts into that scenario. So, but that being said, Jeff, like this is a guy that puts in minimal effort to play an NHL game, right? So I always compared myself when I got to play with Linus Ullmark. I think it was very eye-opening for me. Like in a busy night for me, I would drop 7 to 8 pounds in a hockey game. And people would be like, that's why for me, it wasn't really sustainable being a starter. When I went up to Buffalo and I started playing 55 games a year, 50 games a year, losing 7, 8 pounds and trying to recover something else. But some of these goalies that manage the crease a little bit different, there is the fact that they can play a little bit more. But I think there's that mental side of it, just getting away from the pressure, getting away from being engaged so much, which I think would have been important. But at this point, it's late in the year and there's no catching up to it, right? So that's why I think setting yourself up for success pre-playoffs is so important. And I think that's something that the Winnipeg Jets might look back on if this series goes south and regret, that they didn't give him a chance to really reboot himself late in the year.
A couple of minutes left with you here. How do you see the Oilers' net mining situation at this point?
Mismanaged, I think, in the sense of we're sitting here and I think Kelvin Pickard has been good enough to win. But I also think that the Edmonton Oilers shoot themselves in the foot. That being said, if they want to go the distance to try to win a Stanley Cup and get through this series, I don't think Kelvin Pickard is going to be the guy that brings you to the promised land.
Right.
They need to clean up their D zone. Like they give up a lot of high quality chances. But that being said, they wouldn't be the first team to ever outscore teams to win a Stanley Cup. I think sitting here today, the way that trade deadline went down, I don't understand how you don't have a piece like Cam Talbot here as a backup plan. I don't see how you don't have someone. I could probably make the same argument for Montreal. You have Dobish, who looked pretty young last night and nervous. Maybe down the stretch, you add a veteran piece. There's so much value there. I think Peter Mrazek going to the Hawks, from the Hawks to the Wings. It just doesn't make any sense to me that you wouldn't go get a guy. And I love Calvin Pickard. I love his game. I think what he's done is very admirable and he's done great. But I think when we look back on this Edmonton Oilers era, and if it's cupless, I think a big question mark is going to be surrounding the goaltending.
Okay, so we got a couple of we got Florida Tampa tonight, and so this is going to be Bobrovsky versus Vasilevsky. I always say the same thing about Russian netminders. I swear they don't have hips. I look at how they play around the post, and they look honestly, Carter, it looks freakish to me. Like just I don't know what it is about Russian the Russian goaltending body, but like they don't have hips. I don't get it. What should we pay attention to? We'll end on this one with Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky.
Again, I think just like who's going to steal a game first, right? I think Bobrovsky has been better in the first two. Looking back on last game, it kind of opened up a little bit. But what I do like about Bobrovsky is his ability to bounce back, right? I think we saw that all last year and where it is.
Yeah.
Now I think it's going to come down to the depth guys, right? Because I think this is a matchup where there is, you have two guys that have experience that can get the job done. I still err on the side of the Florida Panthers. I think because of their depth and their grit down the lineup. Like I think in a great clip of that is seeing Brad Marchand and seeing Sam Bennett and Tkachuk all just yelling at the Tampa Bay bench. Like, who would have thought you had all these three pieces together and that pedigree to try to win games? But that being said, I still think there's a little bit of Vasilevsky just isn't as complete as Bobrovsky is right now. And again, it's crazy to say that. Like, I'm comparing apples to apples here, and I think I err on the side of Bobrovsky just because of what he's done, in recent memory here.
Okay. Oh, before I let you go, quick thought on Anthony Stolarz and Linus Ullmark through the game so far. 3-1 Maple Leafs heading back to Toronto.
Yeah, I thought Linus was very shaky last game. I look at that Domi shot that went through him. I look at a few, even the Bobby McMahon one where he comes down in overtime. I don't know if you caught that. He shot it, goes under his skate lace and is in there. He just kind of looked like he was fighting it. It felt like last shot was going to win. I like Stolar's game. I know there was a little bit of rumblings about Joseph Woll. You hearing that talk? I think that is not to play, especially with 2 days rest. And for me, the fact is Joseph Woll has gone in different situations when Samsonov went out and no rest, and he's able to play well. I think he has it mentally to get in that situation. I think right now, Craig Ruby's guy is Anthony Stolarz, and they're up 3-1 in this series. You give him a chance to go at home and win this series and put it down. And again, I don't think Joseph Woll's out of the equation by any means. I remember we were playing Anaheim one time, and they came to me for Game 6. Pickard was playing, and they said, like, hey, be ready to go, right? Because we might go with you. They went with Pickard, which was a smart decision because we won 6 and 7. But we're always ready to go, right? I guess maybe I hear that, and I'm like, well, Joseph Woll, like, we got to get him. No, that's his job. His job is to be ready to go when called upon. It's Anthony Stolarz net. And Linus Ullmark needs to be much better if they want to even stand a chance to get back in the series, in my opinion.
You're the best. Carter, thanks, pal. Enjoy the games tonight. Only a pair.
I always do that, Jeff.
Enjoy them. Thanks, pal. You be good. The great Connor Hutton joining us here on the sheet, breaking down the goaltending situation. By the way, one quick note, and again, a big thanks to the Ottawa Senators organization and Ian Mendez for hooking us up last week at the nation's capital. Really enjoyed that. And Zach, I want to get you weighing in on this one. For the longest time, I always maintained the most creative fans, and I still maintain this. Most creative fans in the NHL are Winnipeg Jets fans. And there's a couple that come to mind. When Ovechkin would roll through, they'd always chant, Crosby's better. Crosby's better. Okay, that's good. That's creative. Ryan Miller rolls through after 2010. It was a silver medal chant, silver medal. Like, it was good. It was creative. This is a lot more creative than, the Rangers with pot fans sucks. Which, is historical and traditional, and we all know why that happened and continues to happen. But I got to really hand it to the Ottawa fans, because dovetailing Matthews Balding, Marner's leaving, like, come on, man, like, that's really good. That's a really, really smart hockey fans chant. Oh, you don't like Matthews Balding? How about Marner's leaving? As he's playing some of the best hockey of his career. Come on, that's like really like, that's the moment it sort of became a real series, when it got personal. Like, Washington and Montreal got personal in Game 3. Now it's a series. This one's personal. And the Ottawa Senators fans are making this one personal. I really enjoyed it. Even as a Leafs fan, you must have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I thought that one was clever. The Matthews Balding one is like, okay, sure, like, you got him, haha, funny, but whatever. We talked about that one last week. The Marner's leaving is clever. That one is clever. I appreciated that one. Also, did you hear the players being asked about it? I think it was specifically Nyes. He was like, yeah, no, like, I didn't hear it. I don't even know what you're talking about. What was happening? Yeah, they didn't hear it.
When you ask the coach after, no, I didn't see the hit. I haven't talked to the player. I don't have anything for you. Had to rush out here to talk to all you important people. No, I don't have it. Oh, by the way, nice back and forth with John Cooper and Paul Maurice. I'm really enjoying that. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I don't want any of these series to end. Like I said, like, I don't want Washington, Montreal to end. Really enjoying all the comebacks with Edmonton and Los Angeles. It's one of those, you better not turn this thing off. This game is never really over here. All of a sudden now, Colorado with Gabriel Landeskog doing an incredible job there. Really enjoying that. We will talk about Landeskog here in a couple of moments. 4-0 shutout Saturday night, and that series is tied at 2s. In the meantime, off the ice today, the big news coming down in Pittsburgh, and the now former head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins is Mike Sullivan. More on that in a moment. This segment, a presentation of RV Easy. Your motorhome or traveler trailer isn't just for getaways, it's a moneymaker on wheels. Most RVs sit parked in the driveway. With RV Easy, you can rent out your motorhome or travel trailer and earn over $20,000 this year. Founded, owned, and operated by Canadians, RV Easy takes care of everything, including full insurance coverage provided for every rental, and best of all, you choose when to rent and set your own pricing. List your RV for free today, rveasy.com. That's rvezy.com. RV Easy. Rent your own RV. Make money easy. With that, we'll bring aboard Josh Yohe from The Athletic, covering the Pittsburgh Penguins. He joins me now on the sheet. Josh, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're much more plugged into this than any of us watching or anyone hosting here. You're right there with it. We were all caught by surprise. Were you?
Yes, I was. I had a conversation with Mike Sullivan less than 2 months ago, and He very emphatically told me, I want to be here for a long time. His actual words were, I want to be here until we get great again. And he spoke to me at length about his loyalty to the Penguins, and specifically his loyalty to Sidney Crosby, and how he, as long as Sid was still playing, that was his guy, and he wanted to be his coach. So the Penguins said it was mutual. Maybe to some extent it was, but I certainly have the sense that it was Kyle Dubas initiated to some extent. I think Sullivan will name his job now if he wants to, and he will move on. But I never had the sense he was eager to leave, and I don't really think it was his idea.
I want to get to the who's coming in and where does Sullivan go now in a couple of seconds. But what I am curious about here is I think we're all trying to put on our Kyle Dubas decoder rings and try to figure out, okay, so what is Dubas trying to tell us here? Like, what do you think, Josh, this move is trying to tell us about the Pittsburgh Penguins? Is it something with Crosby? Is it something about the future? Is like, what does this move tell us? Because I don't think something like this just happens in a vacuum.
No, it doesn't. I would rewind to 1 week ago when Kyle met with the media in Pittsburgh, and he really tempered expectations for next season in particular. And he basically said, yeah, I could spend a lot of money on July 1st and probably get us into a wild card spot next year, but that's not what I'm interested in. I'm trying to build something really great here. So this team's a cup contender for a long time at some point. That's what I want. And my sense is Mike Sullivan is really tired of losing, and he wants a better roster to operate with. And Kyle was basically saying, well, there might be another year or two of this left. And I think that ultimately was probably where the friction, if you want to call it that, was created. I think Kyle, and I also think this was Kyle really flexing his muscles in Pittsburgh for the first time. Because when he came here, it's like, well, Sid still wants to win. So, all right, I'll go get Erik Karlsson. We'll see if that works. That didn't work. And Sullivan had a lot of power. And now finally, I think it's Dubas saying, I want to not necessarily start from scratch, but I need to completely be in charge and make this more of a youth movement. And I just don't think he and Sullivan were necessarily on the same page. They didn't have a bad relationship at all, but I think the timing just wasn't right. Sully was ready to win right now. And I think Kyle feels like this team's not quite ready for that.
How tough a sell would this be to ownership? That's one of my initial questions, always very much of the belief that, not that, I mean, put it this way, Mike Sullivan was very much approved by ownership for his position.
Penguins ownership loves Mike Sullivan. They're from Boston, like him, the Fenway Sports Group. I actually had somebody in the organization tell me, like, he's their Belichick, that they think of him that way. And he's a really highly regarded guy. Why wouldn't he be? And if it was, and I don't know for a fact that this was 100% Kyle kind of nudging him out the door. I don't know if it's fair to put it that way. But if indeed it was along those lines, it's interesting. Not only would ownership not necessarily have liked it, but I'm telling you, there's a captain in Pittsburgh that absolutely loves Mike Sullivan. Sidney Crosby swears by him. He will tell you he's the best coach he's ever had. They have a really close relationship. I can't think Sid was real thrilled about this news.
Right. Were you surprised at all that Dubas talked about talking to Crosby about it? Not sort of looking for permission or anything like that, but just sort of giving his captain the heads up that this is on the horizon? Not
really. And he was asked about it numerous times today, so he kind of had to talk about it. And Sid was in the building. Sid, for reasons, just because he's Sid, he's still skating every day with the injured Penguins. Maybe he's getting, I think he might actually be thinking about going to play in the World Championships. That's a guess on my part. I don't know why else he's skating every day right now. But yeah, since he was around and given who he is, it makes sense that he would be kept in the loop. But yeah, that's an interesting sidebar, and I'm not one of those people who said, "Oh, Sid's going to go to Colorado now." No, I'm not suggesting. I'm not suggesting that at all. I mean, I know Sid never wants to leave.
Do you have a Denver scenic you could tweet out here at all, Josh?
Right, but I'm sure he's not real thrilled, and I wonder how much influence he'll have now moving forward, because he's never been one to flex his muscles with coaching decisions. He's like Mario was, Jágr was, just in the lineage of Penguins all-time greats. Sid is not that guy. He never has been. This is my roundabout way of saying I don't know if Sid's going to want to play for like a 35-year-old college coach. Like I don't know. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but that would be quite a change.
Do you think that's what's on the horizon here? That this is like, look, I'm very much of the belief that the reason that it was a 7-year contract for Kyle Dubas, like that's the number that we need to focus on, is because look, it's going to be a mediocre to bad team for 4 years, but we're going to do right by the legends, the future Hall of Famers here, and not like, well, we're going to essentially let them be here as long as they want to be here. And then and all the while try to build up the farm system and the prospects, and then get to the job of being the general manager after that exhausts. But now with a new coach on the horizon, I'm curious, Josh, like who is what sort of not qualification, but what's the job? What's the personality trait, the experience? Like what type of coach are we looking at here?
Well, I have to think Kyle will be interested in somebody who specializes with young players, because that's what the Penguins are going to be in a couple of years. They're not there yet in a couple of years. So it's hard to say, because I can look at this, from the Crosby, Malkin, Letang era, and I can tell you with those guys, they needed somebody to be hard on them, like a Mike Sullivan who can be tough. Mike Therrien was the first coach who ever really got anything out of them. Like, especially Dan Bilesma was too nice of a guy. Mike Johnston was too nice of a guy. That kind of personality never worked with that group. But now things are so different, because even though you still have Sid there, the fact is you're going to have this new wave of young players. So I would think either a younger coach or a coach who has a history of being very good in terms of player development would make a lot of sense. So who knows? You're going to hear all kinds of names. And I promise, if it were up to Sidney Crosby, their next head coach would almost definitely be Rick Tocchet. He loves Rick Tocchet. Everybody in Pittsburgh loves Rick Tocchet. Who knows what's going on in Vancouver? That's an entirely separate issue. But even though I think Tocchet's a viable candidate and would make a ton of sense, I have to think a younger coach, not necessarily even an NHL guy, maybe someone in the AHL, a college coach. Who knows? We know the names that are out there, but a younger coach would certainly make sense given where they are.
Tocchet's a fascinating name here, because you can attach him to both teams in Pennsylvania for entirely different reasons, but you can.
He's the only man who's loved in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. I think he's the only one. I swear to God. And he's, a former Flyers captain. He has his name on the cup 3 times. Pittsburgh coach and a player. But I think other than Sullivan, Rick Tocchet is the coach that Sidney Crosby respects more than any other one that he's ever been with. He loves Rick Tocchet. He really does. So if he has any say, I'm sure Tocchet will be involved. And Tocchet and Kyle did work together on the Four Nations staff for Canada. There's a little bit of a relationship there. So who knows?
So, the Dubas line about, it's until when we're good again consistently, I'm paraphrasing here. Does that mean that what they're looking at now, and we've seen this countless times, this isn't the coach for when they're good. This is that transition coach for this awkward period of 4 years or so. Does it feel that way to you?
Maybe. We've seen that in Pittsburgh. Mike Therrien was that guy. They eventually couldn't stand him. They had to get rid of him, but boy, he made them better. When they were ready to win, it was largely because of him. Maybe that certainly is a potential thing. And, with Dubas, it was interesting. He kind of tempered expectations already for next season, and he did it back in October before this past season. People were saying, maybe he can be a little better this year. The Eastern Conference isn't very good. And at his preseason press conference, he basically said, whoa, let's slow down a little bit. We have a lot of work to do. And it got everyone's attention. Like, man, he's willing to be patient. He's on a different time frame, because guys like Crosby and Mike Sullivan, they are only wired to win. Like, it was, 3 weeks left in the season. The Penguins had 0.1% chance to make the playoffs. Like, Sid was still looking at all the out-of-town scores. Like, you could tell he was doing the math in his head. Well, if they lose and they lose and they lose, that's how they are. Whereas Dubas is kind of speaking a different language. And I'm not saying Kyle's wrong. That is what the Penguins have to do. We all know, eventually you trade the prospects and the picks every year. This is what happens. You have to rebuild. So he understands that. It's a tough job for Kyle. He's making a lot of money, and he's signed for a lot of years, so good for him. But it is not an easy job that he's dealing with right now.
Absolutely. Okay, so then we're all sort of throwing darts here, and some of us are landing on Boston. Some of us are landing on the New York Rangers. Where do you see Mike Sullivan ending up? He is one of he'll be unemployed as long as he wants to be unemployed type coaches out there. Where do you think he goes?
No question. I have heard from so many people that I trust that Chris Drury is just obsessed with the idea of Mike Sullivan being his head coach. That's always
see that. I could totally
and
see that.
yeah, Mike was an assistant there when Torch was there years ago, so he gets the Rangers. He's lived in New York. He knows what it's like. I would guess they're probably the favorite. Plus, one thing Mike hasn't had the last 5 years in Pittsburgh is a goaltender. That must be really nice for him to at least. You can go to New York. You got one of the 5 most gifted goaltenders in the league there.
Wow.
That's something. I know he wasn't great this year, but that's theoretically something.
Sure.
Something Mike has. But I would not forget about Boston. That's not only his hometown. He still has a home there.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he lives there in the summer. Charlie McAvoy's his son-in-law, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
He has 2 young grandchildren, both living in Boston. There's a lot of reasons logistically for him to be there. And if I'm Chicago, I'm giving him a call. He got the best out of Sidney Crosby. If I'm looking at that roster with Connor Bedard, and I'm thinking, I think Mike Sullivan might be really good for him.
Your point about the goaltender is a great one. And, so many coaches, well, I'll give you an example, like Joel Quenneville, for example. And I do wonder about Quenneville in Boston. There's only, as I'm told, there's only one question that Joel Quenneville asks in job interviews. When you sort of have the conversation, do you have anything to ask Joel? He only asks one question. Who's our goaltender? That's it. It's all like you ask any coach, like, right? Show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good coach, all that kind of stuff. Draw the straight line between the crease and the bench, like all of it. And Quenneville always, who's our goaltender? That's all I want to know. Who's our goaltender? So, Josh, that doesn't surprise me. Rangers wouldn't surprise me at all, even though you're right about Shesterkin this season, but he's still one of the elite in the world, 100%.
Yeah, sure. No, he is, and that's the thing with goaltending. People have said in Pittsburgh, Sullivan has some detractors. Hey, they haven't won a playoff series in 7 years. Why was this guy still employed? And you can go back to 2021 and 2022 in particular, when the Penguins were really good, just completely betrayed by goaltending. Tristan Jarry literally handed the Islanders a series. You might remember the overtime game in Game 5 of 21 when he literally just passed the puck right to, was it Josh Bailey, I think? And then the next season, Jarry and Casey DeSmith were both injured, so they had to go with Louis Domingue, for God's sake, and they still should have won that series against the Rangers. So you could say it wasn't Sullivan's fault, it was his goaltending, and you'd be right. So I think it would be a welcome relief for him to know that he's got a stud between the pipes, that he doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
Think about the old coach of the Detroit Red Wings, Ned Harkness. We need to change the name of the game from hockey to goalie, because if you don't have one, you're not winning any games. Josh, thanks as always for stopping by. Really, I know you're a day like this, you're very much in demand. Thanks for parking some time with us today. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. Anytime.
There he is, Josh Yohe from the Athletic, covering the Pittsburgh Penguins and sharing his expertise on Mike Sullivan, now ex-head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Do you have a thought on that one? By the way, there, young Zach, maybe where Mike Sullivan is headed. If I'm like forced to pick right now, like gun to your head, where's Mike Sullivan? I'll say Rangers. That would be my choice. It's not as if they haven't wanted him there before.
So on a day like today especially, I like to watch as many shows as possible and hear what people are thinking and talking about, and everyone is throwing out Rangers and Bruins. And I was watching What Chaos, and they started talking about, could he go somewhere else? Mm-hmm. There was 2 teams I thought of that were at that top of my list. Now, both teams are in the playoffs. Both teams not necessarily looking for a new coach, but I'll throw this out at you. One, Dallas.
Oh, really? Dallas. Okay. Yeah. If they lose?
That was the first one that I said. If they lose in the first round here, it gets a little different if you get to the second. I wonder what they do. But, first round, okay? Do they look to move on from Pete DeBoer? The other one, the Edmonton Oilers.
Already?
If you lose in this round, hear me out. If you lose in this round and Mike Sullivan's available and he worked with Crosby and Malkin and Letang and he got them a cup,
yeah.
Do you not call? If you lose in this round, do you not think about it and say, that guy's there, let's see what we can do?
Go back to the goalie. Go back to the goalie conversation.
I get it. I don't.
Who's our goalie?
That as well.
Who's playing net here?
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, we'll see where that one heads. But it is interesting the way the coaching carousel is shaping up right now. And listen, like a lot of people are going to talk about Rick Tocchet, just bluntly. Was loved in Pittsburgh. Can make the same argument for the Philadelphia Flyers. Although I just really do wonder about Pat Frischweiler there. You can make the case for Philadelphia. You can make the case for Pittsburgh, but we still don't know, even though Jim Rutherford was looking for an answer late last week, we still don't know what the status of Rick Tocchet is. Unless we missed something in the last 45 minutes that we're on the air here together. As I know, we still don't have any closure there. Okay, let's get to a couple of the games and a couple of line combinations here. And this is a presentation of Wiser's, celebrating playoff hockey with Canadian whiskey that is wisely done. Get your limited edition J.P. Wiser's Stanley Cup bottle at your local retailer today. J.P. Wiser's, expertly crafted and aged to perfection, is known for its smooth, refined taste and the premium whiskey experience it delivers. For Canadians, grab the new limited edition Stanley Cup bottle and enjoy the quality that matches the intensity of playoff hockey. Zach, what are we looking at here today as far as lines go?
Okay, ready? This is where I go fantasy lands, like just outside stupid stuff here, Jeff, where you go, I
like
can't
it.
believe
Good.
They made this guy my producer. Returning to the lineup tonight for the
Yes.
Tampa Bay Lightning.
After one game
is Brandon
suspension.
Hagel slotting
Yes.
in. Right.
Cirelli
Okay.
will go, by the way. John Cooper saying Cirelli's going to go today.
Okay, so he's back in. Ready? Game 1. Hagel hit on Barkov. Suspension. Game
Yep.
2.
Yep.
Who responds to the hit?
Matthew Tkachuk on Jake Gensel. Different hits. I know they look similar, both round and juicy, but we're not talking about apples and oranges. We're talking about chalk and cheese. Much different, but nonetheless, continue.
We have heard thrown out there jokingly, how should the Battle of Florida kick off?
Four Nation style.
I'll tell you how Game 3 should kick off. Or Game 4, sorry, it should kick off here. Yeah, Hagel, Tkachuk, center ice, like square up.
Opening
Let's
draw.
just get this thing out of the way. Opening
Four
draw,
Nation
and you
styles.
let them go.
Four Nation style.
Yeah.
Listen,
It's the two of them who were involved in it. Like, it's
Dude,
the
I'm
two
not
of
gonna-
them who were the culprits of both hits.
I'm not going to put a speed bump in front of that. Not a chance.
Yeah.
They want to do that? Go for it. Like how much spicier can this? I was having this conversation with someone today. Again, I don't want to keep banging the same drum here. Part of the reason why it's so awesome because A, the game changes in the playoffs, as we all know, and B, they're all healthy. Like, how much are you loving Tampa, Florida right now? Zach, how much do you love this?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on.
Get it.
Okay,
with
great.
You, but I get
awesome.
it. I love it.
How much are you
Yes.
loving Dallas, Colorado right now?
Yes, I love
Yeah,
it.
you're
Yes.
you're loving it. It's so freaking. I can't wait for these games tonight. I say this every single night, and I go to bed like, oh man, I just saw like so many great games, so many great periods, so much excitement, all of it. These playoffs have been outstanding. I don't want these series to end. They're so great. So yeah, like bring me more of that while they still have the energy to do it. Because I can assure you, if this were a conference final, it would not be the same. Now, the gravity of the emotion would be deeper, certainly, because the deeper you go, the consequences get greater and greater. But man, it's so good right now because they're all the healthiest they're going to be for the rest of the season. And they're going for it. It's so great. So do I want to see that? Of course. But one of the great things about these playoffs is we're seeing a bunch of things that we never thought that we would see. Fights on the bench between players. Memes that with Tom Wilson memes in Montreal that will remain forever. Right?
Yes. The
So good.
crying.
So good.
And then he said, what did he say? He said he knows that was for one player. He knows who it was. I'm not going to
Slavkovsky.
say.
It was
Yeah.
Slavkovsky. Yeah. We all know that. I
We know who it is.
Slavkovsky.
He could have just
Everybody
said.
knows.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. That fight in the bench, you want to, again, going back to it, I will do this over and over. Like, I have friends who don't really follow hockey as much, and I think that they just, like, bring things up to me to entertain me or, like, to try to, find ways to have conversation with me. That was the one this weekend where it was like, was there really a fight in the bench? What happened in that Montreal game? That was nuts.
Yeah.
Like, everyone caught wind of that. Everyone knew. That was nuts. Like, even I'm trying to think, I'm like, when was the last time I've seen anything like that? I don't even know anything that, like, stuck out
Edge
in
and
that way.
Edge and Christian in pro wrestling in Toronto.
Well, yeah, actually, that's a good
penalty
point.
boxing,
Yeah.
it was. That was it.
Yeah. But, like, outside of that, it's like I actually don't know that there was any. Darcy Tucker, maybe Battle of Ontario, jumping in the bench to fight the guy, but right, but not quite the same. It was pretty cool.
Can we park
can I ask
some time?
you two things here?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Actually,
I was going to say, can we park a little bit of time just to mention the greatness that is Gabriel Landeskog, who now finds himself climbing up the lineup and up the ladder and now playing with Valeri Nichushkin and Brock Nelson on the second line. And how good did he look taking that shot? How big was that smile? How much did everybody love, outside of Dallas fans, the Dallas Stars themselves, Gabriel Landeskog this weekend? Series tied, 4-0. Colorado wins. They looked awesome. Again, I know I keep striking the same note here on Mackenzie Blackwood, but I'm sorry, .939 save percentage in 4 games. He's been phenomenal. Yeah. He's been outstanding. What a contract they have this guy under. He's been terrific. And this isn't like a Darcy Kemper situation with the Avalanche where it's like, they can win with a goaltender who has played great in the past on various teams, but we don't need him to be great here. Mackenzie Blackwood's been great. He's been great for Colorado. But enough of me talking about Landeskog. Why don't you talk about Landeskog for a second?
Well, what I was just going to say is the one thing that's cool about it is you would get that excitement and happiness from people if he just returned. It's one thing to just return. I was looking at Mike Kelly. He does a great job on Twitter pointing out the stats, and he put out some stuff from Sport Logic.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught this, Jeff, the other day, but today, sorry. But he put out Gabe Landeskog while on the ice at 5-on-5. Okay, just quick running down. He's been on the ice for 24 minutes and 54 seconds of 5-on-5. The shots are 21-3 in favor of the Avs. The slot shots are 11-1 in favor of the Avs. Yeah. Expected goals share is 88.2% in favor of the Avs, and the goals are 2-0. He's not just playing and returning to NHL action.
Yeah.
He is a very impactful player right now in return to action for the Avalanche, which just makes the story so much better. Like, it's not a pity case. Oh, wow, look at that guy. He made it back. Like, oh, wow, look at that guy, and he's making his presence felt on this series right now.
After 3
I think
years,
that's
he's
so much better.
He's one of the best players on a team that could legit win the Stanley Cup. And honestly, I know we're just 4 games into the series and a couple of games into the return of Gabriel Landeskog, but like this is like legend-making stuff that we're seeing before our eyes, right? This is like what Jay Woodcroft used to say about Connor McDavid. Don't be numb to this. Like, don't just go like, oh, well, because we've all seen Gabriel Landeskog and seen how great he's been his entire career. Don't be numb to what we're seeing here. Like, he's coming off surgeries that, like, players don't return from. 3 years away after winning the Stanley Cup. Could just retire and spend the rest of his life counting his money. This guy wants to come back and play after that. Like, how many times along the way, 3 years, bud, how many times along the way would normal people have just said, F it, I'm out. I can't, I'm done. There's no way. I'm not going to keep pushing it. Not Landeskog. How many other, not just normals like you and me, but like players would have said like, okay, I can't do this. It's not going to happen. It's been a year. It's been 2 years. I'm out. 3 years for Gabe Landeskog. And he's coming back and he's one of the best players on the Avalanche. I think it's amazing. I just love it. Don't want the story to end. I just want it. It's been so fantastic. Okay. A couple of other things here. Did we park enough time talking about Edmonton and last night?
I don't know.
And Evan Bouchard. And the third periods of the Edmonton Oilers. Like, honestly, like, there were times in that game last night where I said to myself, Edmonton doesn't belong anywhere. Like, they have no business being in this game at all. They have no business. If they're going to win, they're going to steal one. And they stole one last night. Now, they earned it. There were a couple of gaffes along the way. I know I mentioned Quinton Byfield's trying to skate the puck out of the zone instead of a simple little chip, and they're up 3-1. They're going back to Los Angeles. Instead, we're all tied up at twos, and the momentum and enthusiasm is clearly on Edmonton's side here. You know who we have to talk about? You know we have to mention? We have to. J-Rock. Marek has a 92 tattoo on a place that isn't camera friendly. Oh my. We have to talk about Corey Perry.
Oh, yeah.
We have to talk about how great Corey Perry is playing up with 97 and 29. Like, you don't have to like him, and many of you don't. But he is one of the most decorated hockey players ever. That guy wins, period. Pick a championship. He's won it. Right? All the way. Go back to junior hockey with the London. He's won it. He's done all of it. Pick your trophy. Pick your championship. Corey Perry's won it. And he can still play. And you heard Derek Lalone on Hockey Night last night talking about Corey Perry. It was hilarious, but it's all true. Yeah. He is miserable to play against. Like, you're too young to remember Claude Lemieux. So Claude Lemieux was this way. Regular season, meh. Okay. Decent player, and then the playoffs would start, and you hated this guy. You just hated playing against Claude Lemieux. He was miserable to play against. Now, Corey Perry's a more skilled player. Lemieux is miserable to play against. Corey Perry is miserable to play against, and he fits in great with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. That line is magic, and don't disqualify how big a part Corey Perry is on that line. He's been fantastic.
I think it was General Sortness who earlier in the chat, which is a great name as always, but I think it was him who said when we were talking about Tom Wilson, and it applies to Corey Perry, Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk, he said Tom Wilson is a jagoff, but 32 NHL GMs would love to have him on their team, and so would I.
100%.
So pretty much the exact way to describe it.
He's one of the greatest luxury items in the NHL. Every team, bring me Tom Wilson. If you can't, bring me someone like him. Like, how electric is it when, like, Wilson's on the ice, and so is Jack Guy, and so is Josh Anderson, because you know that that Anderson and Wilson, even going back to junior hockey, hate each other. Like, it's legit. It's not like, yeah, we're all members of the PA here and we're all buddies and I'll go to your golf tournament and you come to my... No. There's no, like, Tom Wilson inviting Josh Anderson to Burger Shack outside of North Toronto Arena where he grew up. There's none of that. No chance. No. I haven't thought about Burger Shack for a while. But that's a great place, by the way. Anyhow, how did we get back to Tom Wilson? Corey Perry's been awesome. End of story. That series all tied up. All tied up at twos. Let's get to the games tonight. The sheet is powered, of course, by FanDuel. Home of the 7-game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. All right, we've got a game 4. And I hope we get a game 7 in this one. Tampa Bay facing off against the Florida Panthers. Series of 2-1 Cats at Emirates Bank Arena. Sergei Bobrovsky starts with his .903 save percentage. AJ Greer is in. Maki Samoskevich is out. That means Paul Maurice expects this one to be nasty. You don't put AJ Greer in unless you know this one is going to need players that are heavier and may do things that one day they may have to apologize for. And that's where this series is at. Andrei Vasilevsky in net for the Tampa Bay Lightning with a 890 save percentage. And as you mentioned earlier, Zach, Brandon Hagel returns tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning. All I know is I don't know what's going to happen in this game tonight. I know you're having, these wonderful violent hockey fantasies about Brandon Hagel and Matthew Tkachuk doing Four Nations, the sequel, right off the opening drop. May happen. wouldn't surprise us. It's one of those series where you say to yourself, I can't be surprised by anything. Just knowing the animosity that exists between these two teams and how the balance of power between the two of them has shifted and shifted officially last year with Florida winning the Stanley Cup. Anything can happen. Like, that was part of the beauty about Washington and Montreal. I don't think going into this one anyone had like it was going to be one of the most violent series that we've seen, but there it is. And it wasn't going to be a headline maker because they're like 2 feet away from brawling in the stands, but there it was. There it was for everyone to see on Friday night. Tampa, Florida is a series that I can look at and go, I don't know that anything would surprise me, because you have Tkachuk, you have Marchand, you have Bennett, and you've got like a whole pack of guys that'll do anything on Tampa. Superstars and fourth liners, doesn't matter. They'll do anything to anybody. Won't surprise me. Nothing would surprise me at all.
The one thing I thought was kind of funny, I was joking with someone earlier today about it as well, was like the interesting part about this Florida one and Battle of Florida, is that they're not just being like, oh, Chernak is going after, name your tough guy on Florida, or vice versa, and they're going heavyweight versus heavyweight. It's like, hey, I'm going to attempt murder on your best player, and in response, you're going to attempt murder on my best player. I want to see how tonight's game goes, because I agree with you. I think this thing gets nuts, but it's not so much like does it get nuts. It's who does it get nuts for? Like, who's the guy that's going to be gone after next? Like, is it somebody on Tampa who goes, okay, Sam Reinhart, watch yourself, because you haven't been attacked yet. You haven't been hit. I'm going to go after you.
You know what? Everyone always talks about this. When someone perceives a slight, you don't go after their fourth line tough guy. You go after their star. It was like Marty McSorley said to the Toronto Maple Leafs bench in 1993, if Wendell doesn't stop going at 99, I'm taking it out. And he pointed at Doug Gilmour. And then didn't stop. Wendell kept going at Wayne. And then Marty, when Gilmour stepped, before the big fight with Clark, steps over the blue line, and McSorley hits him with a elbow that comes from the cellar and lands on Gilmour's head. It's like, told ya. Like, they're going. These guys are legitimately doing what everyone says that you should do. They're going after Barkov. They're going after Gensel. Like, they're going after the big boys here on the team. Yeah, you're right. They're going after stars.
Like, Jeff, tonight you're going to see Sam Reinhart get his clock cleaned, and then all of a sudden it's going to stop, and it's going to be because Kucherov went down the hallway and grabbed a guy and said, enough is enough, because I know I'm next. I don't want this to happen. Shut it down.
Colorado and Dallas, meanwhile, will be the Gabriel Landeskog show again. Game 5, series tied up at 2 at American Airlines Center. Jake Ottinger starts with a .911 save percentage. Still no Miro Heiskanen. Maverick Bourque is out. Oscar Back is in. Mackenzie Blackwood starts with his, did I mention .939 save percentage, and how that's first in the NHL playoffs, and how he's been a tremendous addition to this team and one of the best value signings of the season for any team, for the Colorado Avalanche. Anyway, looking forward to this one. This one's been great. And listen, all eyes on you-know-who, the captain, Gabriel Landeskog. This one's been good. This one's been some fantastic hockey. We strongly suspect that will continue tonight. Anything we've left on the table as we look forward to the 2 games tonight? And a pretty newsy day, hey, with Mike Sullivan getting the punt. Agreeing to step away from the bench for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Decision was mutual.
Mutually parting ways. I think that was what they said when Dubas left Toronto as well. They mutually parted ways, I believe, was what was said there, which I don't really find quite what happened. Maybe there's a conversation, but no, that was pretty much it. By the way, also the other thing, I don't think you mentioned that when you're talking about these creative chants. The Blues fans chanting "We want Connor" after
I left that out.
Went on.
That's right, after Comrie and "We want Connor." Fans, honestly, hockey fans now are the best they've ever been. No,
Yeah.
they're not the most stylish. I still look back at like photographs from the 60s and everyone's wearing a suit. Looks good. Like, dress up. It's a big event.
Smoking
looks cool.
inside.
Well, there was that too. Yeah, public smoking was very much a thing as well. I always loved the non-smoking sections of the rink. Oh, I'm getting tickets in the non-smoking. That just means you can't have a smoke, but like the smoke is all over you. It's like the non-smoking section of a
through you.
There used to be, how stupid we are as human beings. There used to be a non-smoking section of the plane. How the frick does that work? That just means that you can't have a cigarette. The smoke is still going all around you. Like, no, this is the non-smoking section. So there's the smoke stops at a certain point. Air stops. The non-smoking section at the arenas. But fans now, the most creative they've ever been, and bravo. Good for everybody. Make it personal. Like, if you're going to a game tonight, make it personal. All right? Like, the Ottawa Senators made it personal with Matthews, with Marner. Winnipeg Jets fans have been making it personal with everybody that comes through that beautiful barn. The St. Louis Blues fans, to Zach's point, have been making it personal and we want Connor. Oh, my God. It's so good. You go to the game tonight. You're in Dallas tonight. You know, think about making it personal when you go to watch this thing, okay? You're in Sunrise tonight, going to see Game 4. Make it personal. Start a really personal chant.
Oh, I have no doubt those people could find a way. With what's going on the ice, there should be some animosity in that building. Oh, man.
I love it. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everyone watching live on YouTube. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, thank you very much for being part of this. This will end my broadcast day. We're back tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern for the sheet. Once again, it is Tuesday. That means MVSW Greg Wyshynski from ESPN will be aboard. Don't forget, tomorrow 9 a.m. Eastern, it is Morning Cup of Hockey. Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohen, DFO live at noon. And then me and Zacatola along with Wish for MVSW tomorrow. Got it? Enjoy the games. Make it personal, folks. Make it personal out there. Get nasty and creative like we see in St. Louis and we've seen in Ottawa. And for years we've seen in Winnipeg. Deal? All right, deal. I'll talk to you tomorrow. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.